part of the product space, bringing product managers and product people under the same roof. It's very important from a learning aspects. And the only way to learn is by sharing each other's experiences. I truly believe in that. There is no single recipe, there is no single secret book that one can follow and be a great storyteller, be a great product manager. Everyone has their own ways of doing it. Elon Musk does it very differently from Steve Jobs, and they do very differently from what Bill Gates does, right? So I think very similar approach I would take even today. I'm not gonna be a preacher or a teacher here. So I'm gonna purely share my experiences. What have I learned from various facets of organizations and teams I've worked with. So quickly, I'd share about what is that I have done so far, so that you will be able to gather where do I come from. How is my thought process built up, and what did I learn? Where did I learn from? Quickly, I think I started about 2007 May. Yeah, I'm pretty old, about 38 years of age. I started right after my college, and I joined a very small company called Yasu Technologies. It was a business process management or a business rules management software. Just a team of 100 great engineers, and I joined as a support engineer, someone who would reply back to customer emails. I was very lucky that SAP acquired the company and ventured into SAP. I was there for 14 years. I never quit, never felt a need to, because the projects or the products I worked upon were very, very interesting. I worked with the IPL teams like Kolkata Knight Riders, Mumbai Indians, RCB. I also worked with briefly for about during the 2015 ICC Cricket World Cup. We developed a game analytics for ICC Cricket World Cup for fan experience, increasing the interaction. Then I moved on to build a product from scratch in SAP. It's called SAP Discovery Center, one of the fantastic next generation learning experience product for SAP. And then, of course, I moved to Rakuten to battle new challenges. It was a fantastic ride at Rakuten, where we built something called an observability system, uh, profoundly named as Rakuten Six Sense. Uh, and all these experiences, working with big guns like Wasim Akram, working with Adam Gilchrist, or working with Ricky Ponting, working with customers like Nestle, Reliance, you know, n number of experiences have today built what I am, right? And that is why I truly believe that it's you can only learn from experience. You cannot learn from books. You cannot learn from the webinar like this. So today I want to share what is my understanding of storytelling, right? And what are the aspects, in my opinion, are key. Now, of course, there's a lot of experts out there on YouTube. You could go and Google various Toastmaster sessions. I've had a fantastic information from there as well. But I'll just highlight a few. And since we are a very small group of about 15, 20, I think we can also open up for questions for the last 20 minutes to 15 minutes, if that sounds about right. So, yeah, welcome again. Thank you for taking your time. I generally love the live interactions over Zoom or eMeet, because I can stare at people who are leaving the room in their eye and give them a look. How dare you leave the room? But I cannot do so in Google Meet. But that's okay. I think Sunil and Siddharth will probably take care of that for me. So quickly getting right into very, very important. I think when I say storytelling, I think storytelling is one key aspect that you need in every industry. May it be IT, may it be petrochemical. It does not matter what organization you're part of. It is very, very important, and it is nothing different from what we see in the movies, right? So the storytelling, the story itself has a power to move or alter your current thought process. It has a power to alter your emotions and the state of mind. We have to use similar concepts even as a PM in our day-to-day life. So I touch upon key of these aspects. Most importantly, setting the expectations right. Now, Most of the movies fail, and very well, you watch something in the trailer and teaser, and you get excited, and when you go to the movie, you're disappointed because your expectations were not right. But have you realized that when someone tells you, your friend tells you, or you read a review, this is a horrible movie, and then it is there on Netflix, and you're like, you know what, let's get over with it. Your expectations are way too low, and then you're like, you know what, it was not that bad, it was pretty decent. It is all about expectations. So if you start telling a story which is superficial, more than the product, more than the features, chances that no one will buy into it, or they'll be highly disappointed. So today I would want to set the expectations right on the aspects that I'm going to cover, which is one, what is the power of storytelling? Who are the other storytellers in your organization, right? And you need to keep a watch of what they're doing, because it's very very important, the kind of piece of information they give as storytellers, or their role as storytellers. It will help you understand your responsibilities as a product manager. What are the aspects that these people are not covering, and what is that you need to cover? How a PM stands out among the organization? What is that the PM owns on his or her shoulders in the organization? Key aspects of storytelling, and how to be the best storyteller. It need not be just as a PM, but any walk of life. We tell stories to our parents, we tell stories out to our partners, how we are the right choice, or how we should be getting the hike and whatnot. We tell stories day in day out. So it's very important you become better at this, and trust me, you'll find a lot of values when you get better at it. It's not just at PM. So a story, what does a story contain, and what are the key elements of a story? It's very very interesting. Again, I learned all this from my experiences, as well as some of the great speakers as well, and truly concur and comprehend with what they said. The story always starts with the characters. Who are the characters? Who are the people who are going to play the roles? Someone that you can associate with. Describing the characters and the nature is super important. If you look at any movie or any technical problems that you're solving, we call them personas, right? But now I'm just going to talk about a story, so it's very easy for you to relate, because I'm sure most of you might have watched at least one or two movies, so you can relate to it, or a storybook, you can relate to it. The emphasis given by a writer or a director in a movie is on the characters. They try to use the emotions, expressions, everything to define the character. Because if you're not able to relate to the character, you don't know, why a particular character is behaving in a particular way. A simple example would be, if any one of you have watched Friends. The first time I saw Friends, it was probably a season 2 random episode, and I saw and I felt, what crap is this? Why is this guy called Joey so dumb? You know, I said, this is not my kind of comedy, and I never watched Friends until the COVID, because there was nothing else. People continuously, kept speaking about Friends. But once you start from season 1, the episode, and they introduce you to the characters, who is Joey, who is Phoebe, who is Chandler, who is Ross, who is Rachel. Once you understand the characters, then you feel, now I get it. So it's very very important. The second and the most crucial, in my opinion, is the conflict. If you look back, there is no story without conflict. If there is no conflict, there is no story. It's a very powerful statement, right? And it's a very true statement. So always look, what is that conflict? Emphasize that conflict. And this is what everyone does, right? What did Rajamouli do in Bahubali 1? If Sorry for people who have not watched movies, I'm a movie buff, so can't help it. So he left us on a note, why did Katappa kill Bahubali? That's it. That's a conflict. That made people make Bahubali to a great hit, right? So conflict is very, very important. Conflict between a lover and love other partner's parent. There should be some conflict. A villain, a hero, everything is going well, probably there is a problem in the family, problem between two brothers, something. But without this conflict, which is the key part of any story, there's no story. you know Then comes resolution. After you've built up characters, you've built up the problems. Now you have people on their edge of the seats. What is the solution? How are you going to solve it? Curiosity of the solution, looking forward to the solution. This positive outcome, creates, actually releases a chemical. It's pretty much science, but I'll not go deep into it. But that feeling, that curiosity, that is what keeps people on the edges, and that's what helps them associate with the story really well, because you showed them the character, you showed them the conflict and the resolution. So that's how these three stages are super important. I'll also speak about in the context of product, how do you apply these principles in your day-to-day activities. Last is the emotion. You have to make them move. Either they should move in terms of excitement, sadness, anger. A lot of movies even do not give you a resolution. They do not tell you what exactly happened at the end. They leave you at the climax without a conclusion. They want to keep a grip on you. They're playing with your emotions, emotion of curiosity. So these are the four aspects of a story, and what makes a story very, very powerful. Now, who are these other people in your organization, in a company, who are also storytellers? But these are very, very different. Yeah. Giving you a comparison, I think it is easy. Hence, I take this examples of a movie again. CEO is more like someone who gives you a title teaser, a motion poster, nothing more than that, which means a vision. I need a superhero. And now sales is like, what superhero is gonna save you world, is gonna save you from fire. They will just go on and on and on. Your manager is just like a background music, amazing music, just ensuring that everything feels good, and the engineers do the work. But it is the product manager who actually identifies what should the superhero look like, what should be the capabilities of a superhero, you know, what were the problems that he's going to come up with. So you define everything, and hence you will find most of the times the CEOs of an established companies. I'm not talking about the CEOs or the founders of a company. Founders are someone who know what they're doing precisely. CEOs are someone who's just handling an organization. Yeah, I mean CEO from that perspective, so not the founders one. So CEOs generally give you a vision, and they say, what, don't come back to me with problems. Don't come back with me. Just come back with me solutions. Just tell me what has to be done. So CEO sells a story in terms of vision, without the specifics. CEO will never give you conflicts. He's not gonna someone who's touch upon conflicts or problems. They are always about positivity, and that's their role, right? Sales, it is about whatever you create. They they kind of edify it in a whole different level, so that the customers are like, wow, something great is gonna happen. It's like movie promotions, right? When you sit in the conference, they are going to talk so big about it. They are setting the expectations really, really high in terms of numbers and all. It's their job. The sales is also telling a story, but the intent of telling the story is very, very different. And the crux of the story is also very, very different. You would not see a sales guy or a saleswoman, talking about problems, emphasizing on problems, emphasizing on solutions as well. They're just emphasizing the vision that the product has. That is what they sell. The managers, of course, they are here to, ensure everything is working fine. They're more like the background music, adding to the effects. They tell you stories in terms of, I think a lot of people who are product managers will be able to relate. They tell you stories of why they cannot give you a particular hike, how the market is bad. These stories are very, very different from what you're trying to do. And then, of course, you know let me not get started on the engineers. So all the engineers in the house, my apologies, but I have heard it enough number of times. What, this is not possible. I think the product is not so clear. I think backlog misses particular details. I think there is a flaw in the design. I think it is going to take 1 month. You know, we need to move from monolith to a microservice based architecture and whatnot. So these are the other players. These are not the people who actually own the product and run the product. And I'll talk about it in the next slide, where you fill in all these gaps. You take the bits and pieces, you take the bits and pieces from the CEO in terms of vision, you take from the sales, how can you edify your product, because they see your product very differently from how you see it. Your manager, right? See it from a process perspective, see it from what are they trying to uh, you know help you with. There are very key aspects that will really really help what manager says. And of course the engineers understand the technicality. uh, Whatever they speak in terms of technically, it's very important, because when you speak with the customer, when the moment the customer sees a product manager speaking technical aspects, I know most of the product managers need not be technical, but it's very very important that you are technical. You're doing a development in Java, JavaScript, at least know the basics, at least know what is CSS, at least know two or three parameters you apply in CSS. What are the effects which are possible. How does the debugging happen in the browser for JavaScript or the AngularJS? Some basics. You need not show yourself as an expert, but knowing the basics is very very important. What is that the product manager does now? You deal with all of them. Very importantly, you need to be super creative, right? You are the one who are exploring the problems, so-called use cases. You are the one who is exploring the personas. You are the one coming up with the solutions. You are the one orchestrating with the UX, the engineers, the management, the sales, the CEO, whoever it by without documentation. So managing different versions of the same story with different people. How you explain the story of the product to a documentation or the UA, we call a user assistance also, right? A UA is very very different. It cannot be the same. You cannot explain the same thing to an engineer and give them, what, because for an engineer you need to explain very very technically. For example, a feature of payment, if you have in your product, you have to tell the engineer what do you want, from a ease perspective, from a resilience perspective, how, from a scalability perspective. This is your story to the engineer. This is irrelevant for a documentation, right? Or this is irrelevant for a CEO. What you need to talk to different people is entirely different. So you need to have a persona in mind. Who is your audience? If you go to the mass crowd and play probably a award winning movie, they're gonna not like it. It's not the movie, it's not the audience, it's the combination of both. So this is the art, and you would, if you start giving emphasis on how to do it, I think you'll learn from it. So key point to note: check who the audience is. Is it the customer? Is it your manager? Is it the engineering team? Is it the documentation team? Is it the support team or the sales team? Have different versions of the same story. Don't change the story. Have the core of the story should remain the same. Just the delivery of it would change. Just the specifics of the story would change. This is very, 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 very important. That is where product manager is not just managing the product, but he's also managing the entire stakeholders. And these are all people around you, are your stakeholders, are your audience. Know your audience. Yeah, very important. You're the single point of contact for everything. You know how many times have you heard that you are the CEO of the product? Yes, you are. You're also the sales of the product. Yes, you are. You are selling your product to your stakeholders. You are the one who writes and prepares the PPT for your manager to present it to the higher stakeholders on why they should invest more, why you should have more hiring. Yeah, why we need more instances on GCP, Azure. You know, why do you need all of these things? Why do you need extra set of UX engineers? You are the one running the entire show. You are the single point of contact. Everything goes good, you may not get the credit, but something goes wrong, you're the single point of contact, because you're running the show. You're like more like a conductor. Conductor is not the bus conductor, but the conductor in the orchestra, who is waving and ensuring everyone is playing according to the tunes that he want them to play, synchronizing with the UX, synchronizing with all of them, right? So while you do why I mention Spock is not to tell you what are the roles and responsibilities of the product manager, but I'm trying to tell you that how you speak, don't forget how you speak. Every small instance is also a story. For example, you want to get more resources or more people in your team. You want two extra engineers, as simple as that. You want one UX and two extra engineers. Even this is a story. You cannot just go and tell, you know what, hey, Mr. XYZ, I need two engineers and one UX. They will say, sorry, Vasu, we don't have a budget. But you need to again emphasize on the problem statement. What will happen if you don't hire? What are the consequences, right? And then also give them solutions. Don't just say hire. Give them again two or three different approaches. One approach, we can hire. Second, can we probably get it from the other team? Can you help me with that? Can we have probably a temporary staff? Can you help me with that? You see, every small thing that you do involves a story. you know it involves it involves the problem statement and the solution. Super important. So you are the center of all these things that you want to do. Yeah. Now, key aspects. Just like I try to cover for a movie, you need characters, you need a conflict, you need a resolution and emotion. For product, you need the personas. That's where it all gets started. You have to define personas for your story. It's very, very important. It Think about all the things and all the aspects which needs to be covered. Problem helps you narrow down. These are the use cases. So when you are doing any demo to a customer, you know you always start from a persona. I think you do the same thing in user stories as well. As a particular user, I should be able to do that so that I can, right? This is a generic template. You use it for your user stories and backlog items. So when you start a demoing, or when you pitch for people who also doing in a small team, also trying to do their own pitch, always start from the persona. Always introduce your characters. Pick two characters according to the audience and relate them. What is the persona? What are the things that this user does on a day-to-day basis? What are the problems? Emphasize, and 90% of your storytelling should be emphasizing on the problem. Last 10% on your solution, which is either doing a live demo or doing playing a video of the demo, right? Most of it should be on the problem, because they need to go to that space. You need to create empathy. You need to put yourself in the shoes of one of the audiences who is your persona, because he or she needs to feel this. You know what, he is talking about exactly the same problem I have on a day-to-day basis. You need to be able to relate to them. If you fail to connect, if you fail to relate to those personas with the problem that they have in their mind, you will lose them. Then then it's like, what, I did not understand, I don't know what you're trying to solve, I don't know what you're trying to say. So you would just end up giving the demos and the features of the product, right? Hence, spend most of the times on your problems. In fact, I heard, I don't know how much it is true, I've not met him personally, but Albert Einstein says, if given 1 hour, I'd spend 55 minutes uh, digging and learning about the problem, and only 5 minutes on solutionizing, right? Uh, so there is an overlap between the work you do and the storytelling, but it's very, very important, because all these aspects are part of what you do on a daily basis. I don't emphasize on solution so much when you are talking about it, because it's the last part. Have you ever seen that movie gets over very soon? If you look at a crude example of Game of Thrones, how did it end? How were the White Walkers killed? It was just a 5 minute thing. You know, how was probably in any movie the climax ends? It's a 1 minute thing. It's a small thing. The entire part of the story is all about problem building. You know, so there are hundred and million ways to solve for a problem. So people are not so much excited about how are you solving it, or what is the solution that they will eventually learn. You have to just relate to them that, you know what, this is one of the solutions, and why am I doing it better? How am I solving it better? And once you have established the problem, solution is a merely a just a, what we call a formality. The last and most important thing when you tell a story, when you're speaking with any of your stakeholders, your customers, uh, your engineering teams, your fellow, I think the passion, very very important. This is where gets all messed up. If you don't have passion of what you're speaking about, if you actually don't mean what you're saying, if you are trying to tell lies, if you're trying to oversell, if you try to play any other role of let's say a sales or a manager or a CEO or an engineer, they will not look you as a PM. They will not be able to connect, because you're the only person who is taking through the entire bits and pieces of the story, right? So the passion you are going to say is super important, right? And this would come once you have spent a lot of time understanding the problems, understanding the customer, make them speak, you know, take note of all the problems that each and every customer says. This becomes your story. And for every customer, there cannot be one story, by the way. For every customer, there needs to be a tailor made story. So once you get a customer, when you're doing a presentation, know your audience, get to understand what are the problem statements, ask them questions if you don't have the questions with them. So once you get the all the templates of the problems, once they narrate their problems, inject that inject that snippet into your story, and talk with passion. Most important, you need to fall in love with your product day in day out. You should be able to explain your product even to your grandmother. One of my when I was in early days, one of my product managers, Mr. Harsh Jagdishan, he used to tell this, you know what, build the product so that even my grandmother can understand. And he was so right. I used to feel that, he's just making fun of, just it's just a joke, but it was not a joke. You should be able to explain your product, explain what you're trying to do, even anyone random who doesn't even know IT. If you could do that, customer is very very easy to talk to and convince to. Almost at the last segment, so that we can jump into questions and answers. If you have something specific, I can go very very deep. These four, I think I yeah, I think I've uploaded the older side, so don't go by this slide. I think if you need to be the best, these are the four things that are needed. Speech. A lot of people will not tell you these factors in terms of PMs. I think they train you in terms of creating a user story, presentation skills, PPT skills, your communication skills. These are good, these are important. But more important is your speech, your voice. You have to practice when to slow down and when to fast. Never speak fast. Speak with pause. Never use right. And this comes with practice. You have to practice. And how do you practice? Every time you speak, whether it is an engineer, whether it is a UX, whether it is a watchman, speak the same way. Yeah. So speech. And there are a lot of TEDx talks, there are a lot of content out there in the internet which will help you work on your voice as well. All these things affect a lot. Why do you think in Lagan or any other movie they would use a persona like Amitabh Bachchan doing a voiceover? Have you seen, all the voiceovers are done by very powerful people or the powerful voice. So there's a lot of emphasis on speech and your voice. Second, your posture. You need to look super confident, and that will tell them, you know what you're talking about. Your posture is everything. If you feel that you are underconfident, prepare yourself really, really well before you go out there. You need to have narrated that story n number of times to yourself first, then to your team before you go in front of a very critical audience. This is where the posture comes from practice, practicing in front of the mirror. I know you might be thinking, you know what, Vasu, why are you talking about, acting? No, I'm not. These four things or these small things make a huge difference on what kind of a PM will you become. Because you are not going to be a junior PM today, right? You will be a senior PM. You will be a director of product. You'll be even more VP of product. You will be probably speaking to 10 thousands of people. You cannot prepare then. You need to be preparing right now, right from now, right? Only then you will be confident enough to speak to 10,000 people, right? Posture, dressing. I don't know how many of your mentors, your managers emphasize on this, but I bloody do. I have emphasized this a lot to my team, everywhere I have worked. Unfortunately, we are living in a world where people judge you by the way you look. Until unless you are Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg has already proven himself. Probably Elon Musk, he has already proven himself. Even if he comes to office in a shorts and t-shirt and delivers, people know he's Elon Musk. We are no one at this point of time, right? So dressing is super important. Dress really, really sharp and really, really well. And dressing is not for the crowd outside, the dressing is also for yourself. When you dress well, you feel more confident, you feel good, well groomed, you good look good in the mirror, you feel good. Once you feel good, you speak well, you appear well. Last is personality. Have a smile, be warm. This four things, and probably many more, but these are the four key things which will help you to be a better storyteller. So you can work on the aspects of your story, yes, of course, in terms of defining your characters slash personas, defining the conflict versus problem, defining the solutions versus resolution, emotion versus passion, and the mix with speed, posture, dressing, and personality will do the magic. You know, I tell you one instance. When I used to do workshops, and I've done a lot of workshops across about 16, 17 countries, and the entire audience, the common thing is everyone judges you by the book, how you look. Uh, Personally, for me, I look a little more younger to my age. And in the past, people have not taken me seriously, because I would just wear a shirt, a trouser, and a shoe, and they will feel, what, maybe he's not so experienced. Things drastically change, and I used to wonder what is happening. I'm so good at my content, I've done everything well. What is missing? And then one of my mentors back in SAP, said, what, just put on a blazer. And that drastically changed, and I went to this workshop in Mumbai. I very clearly remember, because that changed everything. And since then, I wear a blazer, I feel good. So I went to the workshop, and one of these guys asked me, what, you're so young, are you a graduate from IIM or ISB or somewhere? I asked him, no, why would you say that? No, you're in such a great position, you know the product so well, you must be heading something. I told him, no, I'm a senior product manager, borderline, head of product. But why did you feel so? Of course you are wearing a blazer. You should be a big man. This is what he said. So yeah, as a conclusion, I hope I have touched upon few aspects of storytelling. Now open for questions if you have any.
I